All right, let's do it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of The Tripod, where we break down every NFL game every week from a punting perspective. And we have turned things around. A massive day on Thanksgiving Day for us, going 7-1 on best bets and also cashing another huge same-game multi. For the season, we are actually up over 47 units on multi, so we've been absolutely slaying that. And haven't been doing as well on the best bets, but we said to ourselves, this week's the one we turned it around, Jacob, and we certainly did yesterday.
Yeah, if you want to say we've turned it around, we've had one good day, but it was not your typical Thursday in the NFL. There were 3 games. We did have, 9 best bets. You said we went 7-1 and also a push in there, which
Correct.
Again shows the value of every, half point. Look, the best bets have been gone really bad, but when you tip for as long as we have, 5 years doing this, you're going to have bad spells. We've said, tread cautiously with our best bets on the NFL. It's harder to find value. How badly we've gone is simply not going to continue at that rate. We could only get better, and hopefully this is this round, week 13, is the beginning of that. And the same game multis is a joke, how well we've done on them.
We have,
not just, smashing that one yesterday, it's paying out, over 20-1. But NBA as well, I think you had, was it
We've had a few
double
NBA
digit,
winners.
like around a 10-1 winner the day before in the NBA. And with the Ladbrokes promotion, we can't really specifically say what the promotion is. But look, put it this way, if you've got any bonus bets burning a hole in your pocket, you can, and you're wondering what you want to put them on, you can literally be putting your bonus bets on these same game multis, right?
Correct. Yep.
So they're these been winning like it's gone out of fashion. So if you're winning and you've got some bonus bets, you put them on these multis. We've been hitting how many same game multis at double digit odds? And as a rule of thumb, anytime you're getting 10-1 or better, that's a good use of a bonus bet. And we've explained the maths behind that as well. So in those terms, that's kept the summer really profitable for us.
Oh, absolutely. And you don't even have to look around for value yourself. As you said, getting 10-1 on getting 10-1 for your bonus bet is very good. We sort of say as a rule of thumb, don't bet your bonus bet on anything under $5. And, I think none of the same game multis we've really been giving out have been under $5 anyway. So it's easy enough for you guys. You can just throw a bonus on the same game multi, throw some regular cash on the same game multi, and if it wins, you get yourself another bonus bet to roll over again. So, win-win situation. Let's get things kicked off, Jacob, and try and keep the good momentum rolling. First up, we've got the Browns laying 2 points at the Pittsburgh Steelers. 38.5 points is the total. Super interesting game, this one. Obviously, both teams are actually outside shots of still making the playoffs. Both teams probably will not, but as you'll remember, they had a game about 3 weeks ago. Very intense one. Obviously, Myles Garrett, getting ejected, hits Mason Rudolph in the head with his helmet. And so there's a bit of feeling between these two teams, that's for sure. So you know that the Steelers are going to be pumped. They're at home. But once again, the Steelers are not the superior team here. The Browns are better, and that's what the line is telling us. I wanted to play the Steelers initially, just getting that revenge factor from losing to the Browns a few weeks ago and how much feeling there was in that game. So I think they should be extra motivated, but they are still very short-handed. Juju's still out. And I do think that this Browns team is the better team at the moment and certainly playing that way. So it's a pass for me, but should be an interesting game to watch.
Yeah, with just a month left in the season, you really do look at playoff implications in terms of who's motivated, who needs games, desperately and things like that. Right now, as it stands in the AFC, the Steelers are sitting in the second wildcard position. They're 6-5.
Crazy.
There's 3 other teams behind them, 6-5, and then the Browns who are 5-6 and still definitely in it with many winnable games, probably games Browns will be favoured in. And it's funny that the Browns are favoured in this one because these two teams played 2.5 weeks ago, and the Browns were -3 at home, which would indicate these two teams are equal teams. Now we go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a strong home field advantage, and yet they're an underdog. But the Browns have strung together a little, 3 or 4 game winning streak now. I think, they beat the Bills, Dolphins, and they did get that win in that kind of game that was tainted by the helmet swing. So now the Browns have got momentum. They're actually improving. Baker's looking better. They're getting the play action going. They're starting to get to their playmaking receivers. So I like them. I can understand why they've been made a favourite. But the Steelers, I don't want to go against them. It's still such an awesome defense. They're strong at home. everything to play for, and even possibly a little bit of extra spice because of how last game ended. But I won't take the Steelers either because we're down to a third-string QB. And Mason Rudolph was awful, but I don't think like Devlin Hodges is necessarily any better. So it's just dire straits on offense, especially Juju's out, and is James Conner going to play in this game? So it's hard to see where the points will come for the Steelers, but they're a nifty kind of team, shifty that can manufacture some points as well. So interesting one, but we had a best bet.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You've got to be selective. You've got a lot of games, 16 games, I think, over this week with no one on bye. So you do have the luxury of being a little bit selective. Next up, we've got the Packers laying 6.5 points at the New York Giants. 44.5 points is the total. I do like the Packers here. I know that the Giants season is done. I know they lost to the Bears last week. I think the score looked a little bit closer than it probably was. The Bears were up big in that one. The Giants got a late TD to pull it close, and they did have a chance for a game-winning drive, but just cannot get anything going at the moment. So the Giants season is most certainly done, but this is more of a play on the Packers. I do think they're still an elite team. They're coming off an absolutely embarrassing loss to the 49ers. Not only just an embarrassing loss, but in prime time, so everyone saw that game and saw how bad the Packers were in that one. But I think it's going to be a different story in this one here. The Giants have the 27th rated pass defense. And the issue with the Packers last week was the 49ers were just getting so much pressure on Aaron Rodgers, didn't have any time. I don't think that's going to be the case this week with the Giants. I think the Packers are going to put on some points and get the job done and get the cover here.
Yeah, simple handicap for me. This is a good team, which I definitely still classify the Packers as, still 8-3, off an embarrassing loss. You know that on the road, there's no distraction. They will come in here and I think put up a good performance. And that good performance with the talent disparity they've got should be enough to win by a touchdown or more.
Indeed, we got three best bets on this one. We're taking the Packers laying 5.5 points. You'll find that one at $1.80 in the Bet365 alternate line market. We're going to take the Packers over 25 points at $1.88 on Ladbrokes. And we're taking the Packers halftime, full-time at $1.83 on Bet365. I see Joseph Stanley there in the comments, agrees with us on the Packers in a bounce-back spot. Thank you, mate. And yes, I know you're a big Niners fan.
Loves his Niners.
Loves the Niners, and they are doing well. We'll get to them very soon. Next up, the Jets laying 3 points at the Cincinnati Bengals. 41 points is the total. Interesting game. Obviously, both teams out of the playoff hunt, but the Jets have been playing better as of late. And they do, they had a pretty tough schedule the first half of the season, and then it kind of gets easier from there on out. And I know that they blew out the Raiders last week, but we saw that coming a mile away. I know a lot of people didn't, but the Raiders probably were coming into that one a little bit overrated. So I don't think that win by the Jets is as impressive as it probably looks, because the Raiders, had to travel cross-country, and they were flat for that one. The Bengals, on the other hand, have just been horrific. I know that, close loss to the Steelers, but they played a little bit better last week. Jets have been playing well, but this Bengals team, I initially wanted to take the Jets, Jacob. I think you changed my mind, and I didn't quite realize, but I know that the Bengals are winless, but I did not realize they had, a 2-game head start, or, the second closest team for losses is on 2 wins. So they can still win this one and get the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. So I think that's just enough for me to get me over the line, catching points at home. Not going to want to go winless, and you've put Andy Dalton back in there to try and get at least a win to end the season.
Yeah, let's not forget the Jets, 2 weeks ago, were plus 2.5 at Washington.
Yeah.
So what? Now they're meant to be a field goal or more favorite on the road. I get that they have had a resurgence. They're not completely out of the playoffs. 9 wins could get in, and they're on 4 with 5 games left. But I just looked now. I thought they had a decent schedule home. But next 2 weeks at Ravens,
actually,
at Bills.
That's tough.
That's two teams that have looked a lot better than they probably did at the start of the year. So the Jets aren't making the playoffs. And the beauty of this game is the fact that the Skins got their second win last week. A lot of these teams, Miami famously, but Cincinnati as well, Washington, they're tearing it down, and they know to really, become a relevant franchise again, you have to find a QB. The only way to do that, if you're not going to sign free agents, is in the draft. Having that top pick or, number 1 pick just gives you such a big edge, and especially with, some studs going to be available next year. So they're going to be willing to kind of be embarrassing and be terrible for the sake of having a top pick. But the fact that Washington gets a second win, now Cincinnati has that buffer where nobody wants a winless season.
Right.
Maybe you'd tolerate a winless season if it's what it takes to get the number one pick. But it's embarrassing for the owner. It's embarrassing for Zach Taylor, first-year coach. This might be his only season coaching when he wants to have no wins. It's embarrassing for the players. It hasn't happened that many times.
Yep.
So I feel like this is a game they target. They're at home. It's winnable. You bring back Dalton. They're claiming they've seen enough from Finley, but the code for that is Dalton is the better QB. I mean, he's made a couple Pro Bowls. He's made the playoffs. He's not terrible. He was completing 60% of his passes, and since Finley came in, not even completing like 45%. So this is actually a game where you get a team that's like 0-12, but actually should be energized, should be all in, and is going to throw the kitchen sink at the Jets. And we're catching 3.5 at home. So it's a kind of a sharp play that we have to take the Bengals in this one.
Yeah, indeed. Just got one best bet on this one, and it is, as Jacob explained, the Bengals plus 3.5 points. You'll find that one at $1.80 on Unibet. And we're giving out a value play on this one. It's Bengals halftime, full-time at $3.70 on BetEasy. We just figure that if the Bengals are to win this game, they'll probably need to be up at halftime. And if they are up at halftime, they'll have a bit of confidence and should be able to go on with the job.
I could be wrong, but I thought that there was a 3.5 at even like $1.83 on BetEasy, or
you might be,
and we do have very best with these when we find them. But I'm just saying that if you are jumping on this 3.5, probably just double check a couple of the other bookies.
Have a look. Maybe I got that one wrong.
Yeah, that might have been the best you found, but I just recall I might have seen it, so it would have been maybe BetEasy or Sportsbet.
Okay.
I'll check now while you're talking anyway.
Check now, and if so, I'll edit that one into the best bets that we type into the app straight after the pod. Next up, the Philly Eagles laying 10 points at the Dolphins. 44.5 points is the total. No best bets on this one. I think we kind of had leans on opposite sides. I certainly leaned the Dolphins' way in this one. The Dolphins are terrible, we know that, but getting double digits at home for a team that has not been playing terribly and are able to put up points here is not that bad. I think that the Eagles are in a tiny bit of a letdown spot after, getting up for that game against the Seahawks and then just being able to not get anything going at all and losing that one. Now you're 5-6 and certainly in danger of missing the playoffs. But here's the thing as well, is the Cowboys lost as well, and they're in the same division there. So the Cowboys are 6-6 now after losing on Thanksgiving to the Bills. And I think that gives the Eagles just that little bit of life in this one. I think if the Cowboys won and moved to 7-5, and it's going to be very tough for the Philly to catch them. But just given that the Cowboys lost on Thanksgiving, I think that gives the Eagles that little bit more added motivation and that higher chance that they will be able to win that division. So that's probably the only thing keeping me off the Fins in this one.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of points to lay on the road for a Philly team that's got blokes like off the street playing wide receiver. But has Miami really got any home advantage? Philly, very realistic chance to make the playoffs. Like, they're 50-50. It pretty much will come down to a home game against the Cowboys, and that looks more and more winnable each week, especially like that really does help them, the fact that the Cowboys slipped up again yesterday. And the thing that came out of the Seattle game that no one was talking about, look, they were horrendous on offense. They could never convert a third down. Wentz is struggling, but part of that is just he's got no one to throw to. Their defense kept them in there. Their defense was actually ultra impressive. And don't forget, their defense really stifled the Pats as well. It took like a wide receiver pass for them to lose that game. Their defense alone will win them this game. And will they get the margin? I don't know. I'm not going to lay the number. But Miami's not a consistent team that you can be sure they're going to bring it in this game. So I'm staying away.
Yeah, absolutely. And here you go, Joe. The 49ers plus 5.5 at the Ravens. 46.5 points is the total. Would have actually been great if this was a primetime game, but this is for sure the best game of the early games. 49ers, what are they, 10-1 now? Ravens, 9-2. So this game will go a long way to deciding number 1, number 2 seeds in the conference. I don't know which side I like here. If I had to play one, I think I would play the 49ers catching the points. I understand that the Ravens have a good home field, and I understand that it is a tough spot to travel to from the 49ers over in California, where the weather is still relatively warm, over to the Baltimore Ravens, where it's starting to get pretty chilly towards the end of the year. checked the weather report. It looks like it's almost certain to rain in this one, which certainly helps the under. Both teams, the under is my favourite play here. Both teams love to run the ball, as we know. It is a huge game for both teams. So whenever you get, a game that means a lot, the defenses generally step up. And with inclement weather, I think it's going to be tough for both teams to score points against pretty good defenses. We all know how the Niners defense is elite, and this Ravens defense has been playing elite as of recently. So the one worry, I guess, or the one thing that certainly helps the 49ers is you get Kittle back, you get Sanders in, and Samuel in as well. So they're coming in relatively healthier than they have been over the past month or so. But even so, I do see this being an absolute arm wrestle, and that's why I like the under.
Yeah, this is a Super Bowl rematch. Can't remember, it was around 2012. It was the Joe Flacco run, and it was back when you had a Harbour brother on each side. But these teams haven't had a lot of success since. But you look at this matchup right now, it could be a Super Bowl preview as well. They're just about the form team in each conference, and they both kind of had the same win in prime time. They both beat like a legit team, destroyed a legit team by like 30-odd points. We saw it on Sunday Night Football with the Niners, destroying the Packers, and then Ravens arguably even more impressive because theirs was on the road, just absolutely housed the Rams. So looking at this game, it's great that we get these two teams, head to head. 49ers, I feel their ultimate strength is their defense, especially against the pass, but not so much against the run, which is what the Ravens do. And I feel like the one team that beat 49ers was a really run-heavy side with a mobile QB in Russell Wilson. I think that could be the path that the Ravens can kind of go down to win this game at home. It's a huge game for both, obviously, but especially the Ravens, I feel, because they're only one win back off the Patriots, and the Patriots do have some tough games. We're going to talk about them at Houston this week. I think they host the Chiefs next week. If the Pats lose a game, the Ravens have that tiebreaker by virtue of their, demolition of the Pats. So to get the number one seed is so critical because
100%.
How often do the Patriots ever lose in the playoffs? And they've won 21 straight at home.
Yep.
So if the Ravens can get to the one seed, and who can really stop them right now? I wouldn't be surprised if they run the table. You watch the way that they moved up and down the field. Lamar, 6 drives he was in against the Rams. The Rams is no joke on defense, especially. No. 6 drives, 6 touchdowns. It's like he makes the passes he needs to make. They obviously have a really strong downhill running game. And then just the skeleton key that if all else fails, he just tucks it and runs. And he can either go around, and I told you he reminds me of, this has gone back a decade, but Chris Johnson, like the running back who just burned everyone for speed, he does that on the outside. Or if the pass rush, gets too deep into the box kind of thing, he just runs up the middle as well. So I don't know how you really stop
He has the
Lamar
9th most rushing yards of anyone this year.
Yeah,
he is a top
including
10 running back.
So, and you talk about sometimes players just have a breakout year. No one can figure them out until at least the off season when they get enough time to plan. It's very hard to plan on a short week. So I think the Ravens win this game. And my question mark is how good are the Ravens defense? But you're telling me like their stats will say it's a top 5 defense. And that's why right now they're just about favorites to win the Super Bowl. I would say it feels like everything plays into their hands. That a lot of these games, they're getting a big lead.
Right. Then
the opponent becomes predictable. The opponent has to drop back and pass. The Ravens are really good against the pass. They blitz a lot. They create havoc. They create fumbles and interceptions. And then that obviously just feeds into their statistics saying that they're a dominant unit. I'm not sure if they will be in this one. So if both teams can have a bit of success running the ball, then that's good for the under and that it runs the clock, as long as they're not too successful, I suppose.
Right.
But you liked the under even more than me, and the poor weather in an outdoor game, and the weather's starting to get colder too as we approach, the winter, middle of winter. It's enough for me, and we know that when we get like playoff level games, it is generally a little bit lower scoring.
Yep.
Especially the umpires might let them be a little bit more physical as well, the defenders, and throw less flags. It all helps a little bit. So that's why I'm with you on the under in what should be a belter of a game.
Absolutely cracking game. We've got 2 best bets on it, both on the under. We're taking under 48 points for the game. That's $1.82 on BetEasy and a 3-way market. And we're taking under 23.5 points in the first half. That is $1.82 on BetEasy. Next up, the Buccaneers laying 2 points at the Jacksonville Jaguars. 47.5 points is the total. Oh, God, I don't know about this Jags team. I think they may have just about given up on the season. Last week was a horrific showing against the Titans. I think they've given up multiple, 150 or maybe even 200-yard
They've conceded 200
games
on the ground the last two games.
In the last two games. It's just a putrid performance. This is a defense that, coming into the season, was ranked as a top 5 defense, and they have fallen off the cliff. And I don't know if it's an effort-based thing. It could be. I mean, they're not making the playoffs at this point. The Bucs, on the other hand, they played pretty well last week. And Winston was Jameis Winston. I thought he had one of his better games of the season. 3 TDs, over 300 yards, but still threw 2 picks. But I thought other than that, he was pretty impressive. I think the Bucs are just probably, I know it sounds similar, but they seem to be trying a little bit harder recently than this Jags side. So, but the issue is you're laying points away from home with two teams that you really don't know what you're going to get out of them. I mean, if I knew that the Jags were going to show up like they did the last 2 weeks, I would lay these 2 points with the Bucs, no doubt. But maybe the Jags say enough is enough. Let's try and get some confidence going into the offseason. So, no play, but if I had to play, I would certainly lean Bucs.
Yeah, that's the hard part. If you're trying to handicap this game, you're trying to guess like effort level. And we always talk about heeding caution of not overreacting to last week. A week ago, the line on this game was Buccaneers plus 4.5 because you can often bet 1 week ahead. And now they're minus 2.5. Why? Because they had an underdog, upset win. They won by a couple of touchdowns against the Falcons, who are resurgent, and the Jags got beat by 20 plus. So that's caused a big shift in the market. So you can explain why the market has moved, and it's tough. Like, I've watched the Jags, and I've said a couple of weeks ago, Nick Foles is back. That should energize the team. That's an upgrade at QB. But I've watched him closely. It certainly hasn't been an upgrade at QB. He's been horrible. But are you going to say, he will get better? He's barely played this year, so he'll find his mojo. That's a question mark. The Bucs, they're a hit or miss, inconsistent team. Jameis flings it around all over the place. Sometimes it goes to his wide receivers and they get a lot of yards and a lot of points. Sometimes it goes to the other team. So I don't really want to lay points with an inconsistent side on the road, not like they're in the playoff hunt. And the Jags, there is definitely effort issues there. Like, I'm seeing them missing tackles and stuff on defense. But like week 13 at home, it's a little bit early to completely give up as well. So I could see the Jags winning, but I don't have faith in them. And that's why we just could not find a rock-solid best bet.
Yeah, absolutely. We're passing that one. One game that we are not passing is the Titans +1 at the Indianapolis Colts. 43 points is the total. These are just two teams moving in opposite directions for me. The Titans are surging and the Colts are moving backwards, that's for sure. And this is a huge game in the context of the AFC South, that's for sure. It could go. The winner of this could win that division if the Texans happen to slip up. Look, the Titans have been playing well, and the strength of the Titans is their run defense. They're number 5th run defense in the league, and the Colts actually run the ball, 4th most in the league as well. So that the Titans are going to be able to stop them there. The opposite is true from the Colts. They cannot stop the run, and the MO for the Titans is they want to just feed Derrick Henry. He's healthy now. He's been taken off the injury report today, so he's going to be good to go. I think he's going to feast against this Colts rush defense. Not only that, the Colts have just been banged up lately. Like, Jacoby Brissett has not been the same Jacoby Brissett we saw at the start of the season. He's running a lot less in the back half of the games than he did in the front half, and I think that is injury related. T.Y. Hilton out, Marlon Mack out, both announced definitely out today. So the Colts, they're banged up. I think we're getting the better team here, playing better with a bit more confidence coming in. I think the Titans do get the outright win as a slight underdog at the Colts.
Yeah, AFC South rivals, and the Colts have just dominated the Titans for like 15 years. But I'm not going to believe that the Colts have the wood on the Titans. It's just they've had a guy called Peyton Manning as their QB and then a guy called Andrew Luck. So that's what, if anything, this would be an opportunity for the Titans to kind of exact a little bit of revenge. And speaking of quarterbacks, Ryan Tannehill, revelation.
Oh my God.
There's a reason why the Titans have, emerged from mediocrity early in the year to now they can make the playoffs. And you said that if the Texans slip up, the winner of this game can win that division. But it's not even about hoping for a slip up, because I said before, 9 wins in the AFC will get a wild card. So both these teams, their destiny is in their own hands. I think that the Titans have the momentum. A huge win against Jacksonville. They had that big, lucky win, but still monumental win against the Chiefs. And the Colts, you're right, I feel like they all rallied, and it was galvanizing that Luck retired a couple of weeks before the season, and they kind of have all shown that they are a team and they're not defined by one player. But it does wear off eventually, that it would actually be nice to have a Pro Bowl standard QB. And I'm not going to try and take away a lot from Brissett because he's good, but you're right, he hurt his knee, like a medial ligament. He was out for 2 weeks. He kind of rushed back because they were really struggling with Hoyer. And then him coming back and playing less than 100% healthy means he's not running the ball as much, which was a threat. It always helps when your QB can run. And Tannehill, former wide receiver in college, or at least in high school, can't remember. He did play some QB at Texas A&M, but he can run, he can glide around there. He doesn't look too athletic, but I tell you what, he can tuck it and run.
Don't have to tell me about it, mate.
Yeah, he ran for a couple of rushing TDs, which really helped my fantasy team get over the line against yours last week. So that was nice.
Unbelievable.
Thanks for sending that money through. So we like everything about the Titans in this game, even though the Colts are decent. Like you said, the Colts like to run the ball. Yeah, but Marlon Mack's a gun running back, and he's not there. T.Y. Hilton affects the way that you can defend this team. So I wish we got +3 earlier in the week, but the reason it has dropped is partly because of now those guys are definitely out. I still think the value is on the Titans.
Indeed, we've got 3 best bets on this one, and it's all first half bets. So, watch the first half and then turn it off, and it'll be either good or bad. We're taking the Titans plus half a point in the first half, $1.90 on Bet365. We are taking the Titans over 9.5 points in the first half, $1.80 on Bet365. We're taking the Colts under 10.5 points in the first half. That is $1.80 on Bet365.
10-all. That's all I want.
10-all.
10-all
that
first
is
half.
absolutely fine. Not often you can say you'd be happy and you'd sweep with a tie, but that is what we'll do. So 10-all is what we're hoping for here in that one. Next up, the Redskins plus 10 points at the Carolina Panthers. 39.5 points is the total. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one. I've got reasons to bet against both sides. I want to bet against the Redskins because they are absolutely putrid, and they won last week. And quite often what you get, a strong trend in the NFL, is when you have a team win as an underdog and then go on the road as a big underdog the following week. It's not very good news for that team. So that's what we have here with the Skins. I don't want to play them. I don't want to play the Panthers either. They shouldn't be 10-point favourites here, even though they're at home. And they're coming off the most brutal loss ever against the Saints. And that could be a dream crusher. 2 missed field goals and 1 in the final minute. And the Saints drive down in a minute and score the winning field goal. So I don't want to bet the Panthers either. No play for me.
Yeah, I think actually the Panthers probably should be a 10-point favourite at home based on how much better they are than the Redskins. They've had an unfortunate season. They played with a hurt Cam and they started the season 0-2. They get to the goal line like an inch short against Green Bay Packers. They have like a first down. I mean, yeah, they miss a 28-yard field goal in a 31-all game where they came back from down 2 touchdowns at the Saints, which was their Super Bowl. They win that and they're like, 15% chance to make the playoffs. They lose that, they're under 1%. And that shows that they're a good team. And on their day, they probably should be in the playoff picture. It just hasn't been their year. But you don't want to play them the week after an all-in kind of effort and they fall short.
Yep.
It's hard to pick themselves up because now the season's kind of over. You don't know if even Ron Rivera is going to be there next year. It's a tough one to swallow, and it's just hard for them to get motivated. For the Redskins, you're right. Do they exhale now that they got the win last week? I've still got no faith in Haskins. I know he's showboating and thinks he's great because he leads a mini, field goal drive at the end and they squeak out a victory against Detroit. But he was below average again. They actually were even worse on offense than usual, but a couple of turnovers get them the win. That's phony as it's a shitty team, Redskins team that I have no faith in. Definitely not taking the double digits with them, so passing the game.
Passing the game indeed. Before we move on to the next game, I see a question flowing through from Chris. He likes the Titans as well. He says, can we trust Tannehill away? He struggled against the Panthers on the road. I think we can, honestly, and I'll flip it to you as well, Jacob, but I think this team has rallied around Tannehill. I think that Mariota was really, really struggling, and sometimes you get that when, you get that veteran QB and he's really struggling and you throw in, someone else, and the team tends to rally, and I think that's what's happened with them, and I think they're only on the up and up.
Good question by Chris, because Tannehill, I think, is 4-1 in his 5 starts. Happened to be that the 4 wins are all at home, just the way the schedule's shaken out, and that one loss is a road loss. But Carolina's a good team, and I don't, it's not like he's a new QB and you're saying, does he struggle on the road, like communicating with his O-line and
Right.
this and that. Like, he's a multiple-year starter. It's not like he's never played on the road before. I actually trust that he's a good QB. He's made himself a lot of money in the next contract he's going to get at the end of this season.
I actually trust him more than Mariota, especially this season, that's for sure.
100%. Oh, it's not even close.
Next up, the Rams laying 2.5 points at the Arizona Cardinals. 47.5 points is the total. I think we have to take the Rams here.
Do you want to just explain what's going on with this game and how the people are looking for it? It's off the board in multiple places.
Yep, sure. So, Kyler Murray, if you're looking for this game, it may be off the board, but let us know if you can't find these bets. And look, we looked for these about half an hour ago. The news came out about an hour ago. I got my alert that Kyler Murray is questionable for this game. He's practiced in full today. But he has come up with a hamstring injury, so he is questionable. So therefore, we did figure we would take some bets on the Rams. As Jacob says, asymmetric risk here. This is the line that the bookies put out, considering a fully healthy Kyler Murray. Now, if Kyler Murray goes, we know that this line will probably move to 3 with him hampered with his hamstring injury. And if Kyler Murray doesn't go, this line could dead set move 5-6 points. He is that decent and he means that much to this Cardinals team. So we like the Rams already, but just given this Kyler Murray news and the fact that he may not go, we figured we had to pull the trigger now. And then, look, if he plays, we've got bets on a side that we liked anyway. And if he doesn't play, we're probably going to get 6 points on the line here. So, and I also think it's a good spot for the Rams. I mean, absolutely obliterated in primetime, but they're still 6-5. They still have a chance to make the playoffs here. And although the Cardinals off the bye, I don't think it means as much having the bye when you're a team that's completely eliminated from the playoff hunt. Because I think that, your practices aren't exactly as, you're not as motivated in practice if you're out of the playoffs, as a team that is completely in the playoff hunt. The Cardinals defense is suspect. So we're moving from, a Ravens team that was just getting pressure on Jared Goff constantly and a defense that has been playing top 5 recently to a Cardinals team that is like a bottom 5 defense in the league. We're taking a couple of overs too, or a Rams over at least, because the Cardinals, as we know, defense is horrific and they play one of the fastest pace of play in the league.
Yeah, and we've bet against the Cardinals most weeks this season. It hasn't worked out that well. I got to admit, they've played better than I could have expected. I think Kingsbury's actually done a good job. Kyler Murray, especially once he's incorporated running.
He's going to be so good.
But one of the things that Kyler Murray, he's a little guy, and the concern would be that he would get hurt. And at first they were being a bit more cautious. He was just being a pocket passer. And then once they got a few weeks into the season, they unleashed him as a runner. He's a star athlete. I mean, a first-round pick in baseball, which he ends up turning down to be the number 1 pick in the NFL. But he's got this hammy injury, and that's why. And I just checked, it's still available. The markets on BetEasy, Unibet, Sportsbet that we've grabbed.
And a hamstring injury for a mobile quarterback that relies on running is the worst injury.
Yeah, so if he plays as well, we still have an advantage, I think. And look, the Rams have 6 wins, but it is different in the NFC. 9 wins will not get into the playoffs. They'd have to win 10. I don't see it. I think that they probably are going to miss the playoffs, and it is a bit of a shambles there that this team was so set up for the future. You had the hottest head coach that you could have in the NFL. Everyone's trying to hire anybody who's ever high-fived him. Yeah. And this year, it's like all fallen to bits, and they've given a shitload of money to Goff and to Gurley, and they've traded first-round picks, to get Jalen Ramsey, and it's like, and they got destroyed on Monday Night Football. I don't think it's necessarily a dream crusher because they didn't come close and lose. They got absolutely embarrassed, and I think there's enough big personalities on this team that will want to redeem themselves and will play angry. And I think playing at the Cardinals, so you get to play in a nice, dome, controlled weather conditions against a very poor pass defense. I think this is a good game to kind of show out. Let's not forget that Goff's been missing receivers at times, but at least he'll have Woods.
You'll have all of them back this
to throw
week.
And this not Cook. Is
yeah,
Cook's
I think
back?
So. Cooks is back, and I think
I
think you'll have all 3 this week, which is the first time in
why,
over a month.
If Kyler Murray's playing, it's still not a bad bet to ever bet the Cardinals' opponent over because the Cardinals play fast and the Cardinals can score, and then it means the opponent is scoring. But if Murray's out, I think they get destroyed as well, and the Rams will still get their points. So, look, no bet in the NFL is like 100% slam dunk. If the Rams have kind of quit because they got to the precipice last year and fell short, and then this year it's fallen apart, that's a possibility. But I believe that, as I said before, the good team off embarrassing loss theory would suggest they come in and destroy the Cards, to be honest.
Indeed, and we've got 3 best bets on this one. We are rolling with the Rams laying 2.5 points. That is $1.80 on Unibet. All these bets will be on Unibet. We're taking the Rams race to 20 at $1.83. We're going to take the Rams team total over 24.5 points. That is $1.94. Moving on to another team that, like you said, Jacob, is used to playing in the playoffs. It's the Chargers laying 3 points at the Denver Broncos. 38.5 points is the total. And this Chargers team is used to playing in the playoffs. They had 13 wins last year, and the only reason they didn't win that division was because the Chiefs were even better than them. And now this year has been just a huge disappointment. They're 4-7, so they're not making the playoffs. Once again, it's one of those ones where I think 2 weeks ago they played the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. They came close. They lost by 7 points. I think that's an absolute dream crusher. You win that game, you move to 5-6, and you're an outside hope of making the playoffs. You lost that game, you're 4-7. You're distraught probably. You're going into the bye week thinking, fuck, well, we lost that one, and now we're definitely not making the playoffs. So I really do question the Chargers' motivation for this game, especially the fact that, they've got all these senior players on the team, Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, all these guys that are used to playing playoff football, and now you're in a lost season and got to get yourself up to go and play the Broncos. Now, the Broncos also have a lost season here, but you do have, a rookie QB in there. You've got a lot of young players, Philip Lindsay. A lot of your core guys are sort of young players, and I think at home they'll have a little bit more motivation than the Chargers will. And the Broncos have a decent home field advantage. I mean, going there to Denver, it's high. The altitude is tough to play in. I think that the Broncos actually, get the outright win in this one at home.
Yeah, I'm confused why the Broncos are, a field goal or more underdog at home. I know that they're 3-8.
3-8, correct.
But what are the Chargers? 4-7. So why do we think the Chargers are much better? And you're right, very questionable motivation to go into a bye towards the end of the season, but with nothing much to achieve when they do come back and play the last month. I feel like you play for the Chargers, you kind of want the season to end. Another thing is, is Phil Rivers going to be the QB next year? He's had some woeful end of game, drives. The Raiders game comes to mind.
Yep.
And then a terrible intercept at the goal line. It's not just that they lost by 7, but it's that they got to the goal line against the Chiefs and fell short. And, is Anthony Lynn the answer at coach there? Whereas Denver has a first-year coach, Vic Fangio, he's not going anywhere. So the players can't quit. They need to keep fighting. And they've fought pretty hard. We've talked about Denver's had a lot of close losses this year. But they actually got handled last week at the Bills, which we were on. So they're off a bad performance where I think they want to turn around. They come home here. And as I say, I'm not even sure if they should be the underdog. So the points and the odds that we're getting, we've got to take the Broncos.
And one thing I will quickly mention before we get onto it is the quarterback situation for the Broncos. I know that it was up in the air earlier in the week. It now looks as though they're moving further and further away from Brandon Allen and closer to Drew Lock's first game of the season. So perhaps that has some of the reason, but quite honestly, I don't think it makes a huge difference. Brandon Allen has been below average at the very best. So we've got 3 best bets on this one. Broncos plus 3.5 points for the game. That one's $1.84 in the Sportsbet alternate line market. Taking the Broncos plus 2.5 points in the first half. That's $1.91 on BetEasy. And we're taking the Broncos plus 1.5 points in the second quarter. That one is $1.87 on BetEasy. That's the first bet of that type that we've done this year, but we just figure that we like the Broncos absolutely, and getting plus 1.5 in a quarter is certainly good.
If you guys ever question, do we put in the hours and scour every market, then that's proof alone. That we knew we liked the Broncos. We couldn't understand why. They're an underdog. We don't have a model that says how many points they should be an underdog or a favorite, in a second quarter.
Right.
But, other bookies had that line at a half and much
juice
lower
to the
odds.
half,
You couldn't get $1.80. And 1.5, you can easily lose a quarter by 1 point,
100%.
7-6 or variations of, 2 field goals versus a touchdown. So quite like that play. Second quarter handicap.
Indeed. Next up, we got the Raiders plus 10 points at the Chiefs. 51 points is the total. Look, I think we know that the Chiefs are absolutely the better team here. These two teams played a few weeks back. The Chiefs did beat them pretty handily. This Raiders defense has been suspect at the best of times. And I kind of said last week, in regards to taking the Jets against the Raiders, I said that this Raiders team is probably coming in a little bit overrated. They had played 3 games in a row at home. They had all close wins, and I think that was kind of, throwing people off the scent of, not just how bad this Raiders team has been, but I don't think that their record probably reflects how bad of a team they are. I think they're a below average team, this Raiders side. We know that they have, certainly a bottom 5 defense. They can score some points, but I think if they get down in this game, the Chiefs' strength is their pass defense, and I don't think that Derek Carr's going to be able to pass on this Chiefs side if they get themselves down a couple of touchdowns and have to throw the ball. So I do like the Chiefs here to get the job done at home. They're still well and truly motivated, because what are they? They are 7-4. Am I correct in saying they're 7-4? So they're still not completely out of the woods here at all. And divisional matchup, the Raiders are 6-5, I think. And if the Raiders win this game, I mean, there's certainly a chance of stealing this division off the Chiefs. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think the Chiefs will be too strong at home. Very strong home field advantage. They should be able to get the job done here.
Yeah, you got that right. Like, had the Raiders won last week and they were favourites against the Jets, then these two teams would be coming in both 7-4. Yep. So this game is important in the context of the division. And before the season, I thought the Chiefs may be the best team in the NFL. If you go back last year, basically Mahomes' rookie season, never lost a game by more than a field goal.
Yep.
And it's a fingertip that's offside in the AFC title game that cost them a trip to the Super Bowl against the Pats. But what's happened this year? The Pats' defense just suddenly became the greatest we've seen in the last 10 years. The Ravens have emerged, as an absolute juggernaut. And the Chiefs have had a really shocking season. Tyreek Hill gets hurt first game. Pat Mahomes had a bad ankle, played gimpy for like 3 games, then had the dislocated knee, so then didn't play. I think he missed 2 or 3 games, and they went with, was it Matt Moore, right?
Yes.
At QB. Yes. The defense has really
Sammy
improved.
Watkins injured. You had the running backs injured all season.
They were missing
long,
Chris Jones.
Yep,
now he's back, and that's made a big difference to the pass rush that they have. So there's a lot of things that have been built into the fact that what the Chiefs have done so far this year is far below what they're capable of. But now a lot of these issues that I've mentioned, like Mahomes' health, they're off the bye now. Like a lot of these things are coming right. I know that Hill did strain his hammy in Mexico, so that's a concern. But you've also unearthed this McCall Hardman. They got another, speedster
clone
out there to stretch the field. So look, my point is the Chiefs are even better than their 7-4 record suggests, but they haven't blown out many teams this year. This is the kind of game where I could see that at home, where I don't have a huge faith in the Raiders. Like, the Raiders have snuck up on some teams, but as I mentioned before, this is kind of for the division. They ain't sneaking up on the Chiefs off a bye, so they're going to get the Chiefs' best effort, and that should be enough to win by double digits.
Plus, Andy Reid off the bye is a very, very strong trend. So we are going with the Chiefs here. Chiefs laying 9.5 points. That one is $1.85 on Sportsbet. And we're going to take the Chiefs to score over 15.5 points in the first half. That one is $1.81 on Unibet. Next up, the Patriots laying 3.5 points against the Texans at the Texans. 45 points is the total. I had to twist Jacob's arm a little bit, but finally got him round to the Texans. I really do like them in this spot here. I think the Pats are in a pretty bad spot. They're coming off a couple of tough games, especially last week against the Cowboys. I think even playing a close physical game in the rain, it takes it out of you. And, they've got their injury report is piling up. Bunch of people on the offensive side and a few guys on the defensive side. I saw a few people actually in that Patriots camp had gotten sick with the flu, and I'm not sure if it's from playing in that rainy weather there against Dallas last week. But this Patriots side is not coming into this matchup fully healthy, that's for sure. On the Texans side, I like the fact that you got the win over the Colts on Thursday. I think that's a little bit of a confidence-boosting win, and they needed it. Plus, you get the 10 days rest. I think that certainly helps later on in the season. I know that we're not getting the better team here, But catching the hook at 3.5 with a team, I know both teams need the win here or want the win. I think the Texans probably, well, slightly more, I guess. But I know that the Pats are going to come into this one, ready to go. But I think they're just a little bit short-handed. I would not be surprised if the Texans pull the outright upset here. I love getting the 3.5 points at home.
Okay, all the reasons why I think the Patriots will win this game and why I didn't really love the play. You don't make money betting against the Patriots. If you go back historically, since like 2001, there's something like 58% against the spread, which that is impressive alone. But they should be the most public team. They've won 6 Super Bowls in that time. They had an undefeated season. I mean, people know how good they are, and yet they still cover the line. And it's because Belichick is a genius, and it's because of the way they go about things that they, time and time again, they overperform what they should do. The defense is absolutely legit. Spoke about that. Do they need the win? Absolutely they do, because we alluded to this before. The Ravens hold the tiebreaker. The Ravens are an absolute freight train that doesn't look like anyone will stop them. Yeah, 49ers will be a challenge, but I'm still saying I think the Ravens win that one at home. Ravens might not lose again this year, which means one slip up from the Pats and they don't host the AFC title game. That's very important, because I think this team targets the key games they have to win and, can do a bit more, whereas the games that are easy, like if they get a home game against Miami or, a Jets or something, my point is that the Patriots haven't looked impressive on offense this year. There's been a number of reasons. They haven't had many wide receivers. Gronk retired. They've had injuries on the O-line and at receiver. And they've, been incorporating rookies and stuff. But they have brought back N'Keal Harry. They've traded for Sanu.
Yep.
But I think another reason they haven't looked good on offense, they haven't needed to. The defense is so good. They know they can win games with defense. They can play it safe. They can keep Brady upright. This team has extra gears to go to. Like, there's no doubt about it. If they need to, in a dome against the Texans, even if Watson gets hot and throws a couple TDs, you tell me you don't think the Pats can, move the ball up and down the field as well. So this is all the reasons why I think the Patriots win the game, but it's a pretty decent line. I do really believe in that 10-day turnaround late in the year helps the Texans, and it's an absolutely legit offense with, arguably the best wide receiver in the sport. Fuller is doing well too, and Deshaun Watson, I think he had a disappointing game, at the Ravens. We'll forgive that one. Yep. He was back on track last week when they got the close win against the Colts. I hate the coach too, and Bill O'Brien, but this is more about just the value play of taking a Texans team that's arguably the 4th best team in the AFC at home, catching over a field goal.
I think that Deshaun Watson game against the Ravens, where they got absolutely blown out of the water, was the only game, correct me, Jacob, it's the only game of his career in the NFL that he's lost by more than a touchdown.
Or college. I think we said that last week too.
That's actually fucking ridiculous. All right, we've got 2 best bets on this one. We're taking the Texans plus 3.5 points. That one is $1.85 on Neds and on Ladbrokes. We're taking the Patriots team total under 24.5. That one is $1.83 on Bet365. Next up, we got the Vikings plus 3 at the Seattle Seahawks. 50 points is the total. This should be an absolute cracker as well for Monday Night Football. 2 teams that need the game like blood. Well, the Vikings are 8-3, and they are still well and truly in the hunt for that division with the Packers, who are also 8-3, and the Seahawks at 9-2. Geez, who saw this coming? They've just quietly been putting together an awesome season, and Russell Wilson, if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson, would have put together an MVP season this year. He's actually tied for touchdowns with Lamar Jackson this season, but huge, absolutely huge game for both teams, and whenever we get that, we always tend to look towards the under. One legit defense and one Seahawks defense that we know should be able to step up in this one, but the Vikings defense is elite. But Seattle has a very, very strong home field, stronger home field than most, the 12th man there, but the Vikings, on the other hand, are coming off the bye, and like Jacob said, towards the back end of the season, getting a 10-day turnaround or a bye, if you're a team that, is still in the playoff hunt, I think that is a huge advantage. And I think, as well for the Vikings, that's a huge advantage when it comes to playoff time. Getting that bye in week 12, rather than, say, someone like the 49ers who had a bye in week 4. I think that's a much bigger advantage, and I think they probably should do something about that. But I like the under here. Both teams love to run the ball, as we know. I think both teams should have relative success being able to run the ball, but that always chews clock. Not only that, We've got, Thielen, who's questionable for this one, and I think he's not going to go. I mean, he hasn't gone the last couple of weeks, and he said, look, he probably came back too early last time around, and he's going to make sure that if he does come back, he's going to be absolutely 100%. So it seems to me like he's not going to go in this one. That obviously limits the ability for the Vikings to score points, but I just think both teams are going to run the ball, try not to make too many mistakes in a game that's so massive like this one. I think both defenses step up, and that's why I like the under.
Yeah, it should be a really good game. We talk about how the Seahawks, you could argue, have the strongest home field advantage in the NFL. Historically, they have, but all their big wins and big performances this year have been on the road.
Yep.
So if you're playing awesome on the road, you probably don't have as strong of a home field advantage. You're just generally a really good team, which they are.
Yep.
They're one win back off the 49ers. They could still win that division, which then would mean they get to play at home in the playoffs.
Yep.
Whereas if they stay one game behind the 49ers, they'll be on the road. And obviously the 49ers have a very losable game this week.
Yep.
And the Seahawks have already beaten the 49ers. So that's in front of them. Vikings 8-3 along with the Packers. So that division completely up for grabs.
100%.
Regardless, there's a buffer. So these sides, if they're not division winners, they're probably going to get wild cards. So they're playoff
Correct.
teams, and that should be a playoff quality game here. And it's hard to say, who is the better team. They've both got different strengths, but Clowney being out for the Seahawks, reduces their ceiling a little bit, as does Thielen out for the Vikings. That bye, very important, as you said. Ultimately, I just know the mentality of both coaches and both offenses is that they want to ground and pound. They want to control time of possession. Both sides, I think, are above average defenses. So I don't understand why this total is over 50 in an outdoor game. And that's why I agree with you. I like the under.
One thing we should add is that while we were looking for best bets about half an hour ago, we got a notification through that Tyler Lockett, the Seahawks' best wide receiver, has come down with an illness and didn't practice today. So that's another reason we went with the under in this one. We've just gone under in the first half, under 24.5 in the first half. That one's $1.84 on Sportsbet. We will, seeing as this is the Monday game, we'll possibly look into that a little bit more tomorrow and in the coming days to see if we can grab a 51, because that 51 is a pretty key number.
Because to unveil the curtain, we're not in a laboratory or have some supercomputer that tells us with every team total what the number should be and what we're looking for. We have an idea,
right.
But I will tell you guys that part of the way that we find bets which we're confident are value, we compare against American bookmakers and we see what's the line doing over there. And sometimes the Aussie bookmakers, are a little off. And if they're off in the opposite direction to where we want to go with our bets, it doesn't help. If the Aussies are a little bit off and it's giving us extra value, then we love it.
Right.
And the problem is the total's a little higher offshore than what it is in the Aussie bookies for the full game.
Yep.
So we really wanted to get under 51 to play it. And it's not. So the fact that we're not taking the under 50.5 that's available right now on Sportsbet is purely because we believe it could climb a little higher, and we've got time, as you say, Monday Night Football, Tuesday in Australia. So
Absolutely.
To give you guys an advantage of all the different ways that we try and gain an edge.
But let's say it comes out tomorrow, Thielen's out, Lockett's out, then we probably, if we could get the 50, we'd probably just jump on it straight away. That is going to do it. Thanks again, guys. Week 13 in the books. Well, not in the books, but Week 13 pod in the books. And look, off to a flying start on Thanksgiving, on Turkey Day, so we're going to look to continue that on. So as always, make sure you have downloaded the Tripod app if you don't have that one by now. I'm not sure what you're doing, but that's where we post all our best bets, all our multis straight away. Make sure you're in the Facebook group, Tripod Punters Tips Forum. And look, if you've won some money on our multis this week, on our same game multis, look, feel free to give us a 5-star review on our podcast, Tripod NRL Betting Podcast. Feel free to hop on the iTunes App Store or the Google Play Store and give the Tripod app a review, or just flick it 5 stars. It certainly would be much appreciated by us. Anything else you wanted to add before we get out of here on a Saturday, Saka?
Yeah, if people are still listening 55 minutes in to us talk about NFL best bets when we've won 44% on the season, then they are a true loyal fan, and we really appreciate you. And it hurts us when we don't win. We're trying to find you winners, but you have been rewarded in the gold that we have struck with all of these same game multis and the multi records.
100%.
So I feel good about that, and I do believe put in the work, and we're given good information and good picks every week. So if you are one of those loyal people that's listening, thank you, and then you're the kind of person that we appreciate getting a review from as well. So and this might be the turning point. I said it didn't start well very early on Thanksgiving. We had the Bears -4, and they scored the first touchdown. Next thing, they're down 17-7.
Unreal.
But they came back and they won the game by 4, so at least we pushed, and we've won 7 in a row, best bets since then. So, let's keep riding the wave while we can. It's not easy to win, so we should enjoy it when we do.
Yeah, 100%, mate. So celebrate the wins from Thanksgiving. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Good luck on any horse racing or whatever you're betting on today. I think it's a pretty full slate of NBA as well today. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will catch you next Saturday, 10 a.m. to preview round 14. See you then.